Hey everyone, it's Joy here. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is part of the Card Crafters Collaborative hosted by the Delta Crafter, Robin Marshall Clark, and 3 other amazing crafters. So definitely hop along and check out their inspiration. The theme for this collaborative is Winter Wonder. And so I decided to use some Hello Bluebird stamps and create this fun winter ice skating scene. And I'm going to be using Vellum and doing a couple different things with it, which I'm going to show you here in just a little bit to give it a frosty look, and we're also going to stamp on it. So this is the Hello Bluebird Slimline Skating Pond scene die, and I'm going to die cut this from white cardstock. It cuts out the frame and it cuts out the pieces on the inside, and I'll just show you the pieces on the inside really quickly and how they kind of go together. So for the pond area, I want to do some ink blending. This is going to be covered by Vellum. You guys have probably seen me use Vellum before as a way to soften patterned cardstock or patterned or stamping, stamping on the background, any of those ways. We're going to do the same thing for this pond. I want this pond to feel icy and frosty. So I have trimmed down a piece of white cardstock, Slimline white cardstock. I think this is a little less than 8.5 by 3.5, just a little bit less, because I want this to fit behind the frame from that die. I am using Distress Oxide inks in Prize Ribbon Blueprint Sketch. I am going to add a little bit of Villainous potion to this. So when I was looking for my inspiration, I looked for a color inspiration. I looked up Winter Wonder, and it had some purpley blues into purples, and so that's the color scheme for my card. Now, I'm not making sure I get a really great blend because you're not going to see it, and I actually think if it's a little bit splotchy, if you end up seeing that color variation through the Vellum, it's really going to lend itself to the frozen pond. Now here's the frame from that Slimline Skating Pond die. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue. I trimmed down a piece of Vellum, and I'm going to add this to the back. I need this to adhere itself because we are going to do some stamping on this Vellum. Now that this is dry, I'm just going to dry fit these pieces so I know where to stamp. Now, I did a boo-boo on the videoing because I forgot to video part of it. So when I go to stamp this, I realized that my ink is not my ink pad's not inked up enough. I had to re-ink it, so I turned my video camera off and forgot to turn it back on, but you guys will see the end result. So in the Winter Skate stamp set, there is a couple little skate marks. One has a heart, one has a little loop, and so I'm going to put these in place, and we're going to stamp with StazOn cotton white ink. I'm using StazOn because this is what adheres to plastic or vellum, things like that. Regular ink will not, it will not dry. So you definitely need to use a StazOn ink. So I'm going to ink this up. I'm sorry that I didn't record the second half, so you're not going to really see it because I needed to re-ink this, but you're going to ink this up, stamp it, and it's going to show the white, which you will see here in just a little bit on the vellum, but I apologize again for that. So the next step is to do some more ink blending. Now I'm going to use the Villainous potion and the Seedless preserves on the top part. This is going to be the sky for our scene here. So I'm doing the Seedless preserves at the top, and then I'm going to do that Villainous potion towards the bottom. So this is the very top piece right here. So let me add that. Well, let me do the Villainous potion. This is the second half of the top piece, which is the sky. I do not want to ink blend all the way down to the bottom on that other piece. Let me just add this Villainous potion here. So on this piece, I don't want to add all the way down because that is the snow. So I'm just going to come part way down. I am kind of curving it a little bit, following the curve of the pond. And so now we have our 2 pieces that are going to come together, and this is going to create our really pretty night sky. I'm just going to finish blending that part. and it's nice and dark. Then we have the trees. I have die cut the trees twice. I do want my trees to be 3D, but because they're cut out of the back, if I pop them up with foam tape, you're going to see this white background, which I did not want. So I'm using some Copic markers. Oh, I hope I wrote these down. If not, you guys can see the, nope, I forgot to write down the colors, but you guys can see the caps at the top. I apologize, but this, I love this green color. So I'm adding the dark where it would be darkest, closest to the trunk of the tree. Then I have a medium color, and then I have a light color. So the end of the branches would be the lightest color. We're also going to add a lot of frosty elements to this card. One way is adding a little bit of this blue Copic marker. I think this was B0000 to the edges of the snow. But then we're going to come in with mica flakes and glitter, and I'll show you where and how I add that. Now these little critters are from the winter skate from Hello Bluebird. There's a lot of little critters. I'm going to use this cute fox. Then there's the bunny who fell down and is sitting on the ice. And then I have two little mice that are skating in different directions. So I wanted this card to feel like it had a lot of movement, that stuff was going on, which is why I wanted to stamp those little skate marks. So if you look to the right of the screen, you can see that little heart skate mark on the vellum piece there. Coloring in the cute little fox with some red-brown Copic markers. Then we have the cute mouse, which I'm using some W colors for. I think he looks like a little stuffed animal, and I think he's so super, super cute. Now you could totally make this into a Christmas card. The sentiment does not have anything Christmas, but you could put a Christmas sentiment on the outside or even on the inside. I think this is a darling scene for that. I'll also talk to you in just a little bit about how you can make the scene itself feel more Christmassy. I did not go the Christmas route. I went more the winter route, since that's kind of the theme of our collaboration here. I'm going to do a little R30 for the cheeks. I will do some purple for all of the scarves. I wanted to tie in some of that purple that we have in the sky. So I'm going to do that for all 4 of the scarves. Then they have their cute little sweaters that I want to color. I am keeping it kind of with the blues and purples, since that's the background that we have going on. And then for their skates, I just used C1 just to add a little shadow, which, you know, they're so tiny, you're not necessarily going to tell, but I know, and I don't want to leave it white, so I'm not going to. Like I said at the beginning, make sure that you guys go check everybody else's videos out for this collaboration. There's a lot of amazing, well, there's 4 other besides myself, which is a lot, amazing crafters who are just so very talented, and it just gives you some great inspiration. We've got this little blue sweater for this mouse. I'm going to do a green sweater for the other mouse, the same green that I used on the pine trees for the scene. And then we did kind of a different blue for the fox. Then let's use the coordinating dies to die cut these little images out. Oh, first let me just color the little ice skates, but then I'm going to use the coordinating dies to die cut these little guys out. I will tape those down with some low-tack tape, run that through my die cut machine, and then we have our little critters for our scene. So now we can start getting this whole scene put together. And then remember, I do have some fun icy effects that I want to show you. I'm going to use the sentiment that says warm wishes from the winter skate stamp set. I'm doing this at the top of my scene, and I'm going to do white heat embossing. I think adding a little bit white up there is going to break up that purple, even though it's a lot of fun. And I love small sentiments, so this made me really happy because there's not, I mean, you could put a large sentiment on this, but to me, there's not really room for one, so I love that there is a little one. I stamped it with Versamark ink. I sprinkled on Lawn Fawn's white embossing powder, and I heated it with my heat tool, and I stamped that using my Misty. Now you guys can see the cute little skate marks. So on the underside of the vellum, I am adding 1 layer of foam strip adhesive from scrapbook.com. You have to do this if you want your pond to feel frosty. You need that separation between the background, inked background, and the vellum. But look at how pretty that is. Once we put these pieces in place, look at how frosty blue that is. I love this. So let's adhere the rest of our little pieces. I'm just going to use some tape runner, and I'm going to slide this right up against the frame. I left the frame white. I didn't want that to be colored, but you could, and that would be cute too. And then let's add our little bottom piece right down here at the bottom. And now you can see how that little pond came together. So now I'm going to adhere the first layer of trees directly to the background. So remember, I wanted to fill in this white area because I wanted the trees to have a 3D look. So we're going to add foam tape behind the second set of trees. And I'm going to pop this up, and then I can put those in place. Just needed to add a little more shadowing to that tree. And here's the foam strips again. This is going to give us some dimension for the trees. Now, if you did not want to have all this dimension on this card, you don't have to do it this way. You could just do 1 set of trees and then just inlay them in the open die cut areas. But I love dimension on my cards, so I wanted to adhere all of that down. Now, let's start adding some of this winter wonder with glitter and mica flakes. So I have my Barely Art liquid glue that I'm running up next to the part of this pond. I'm sprinkling on the rock candy glitter. This is from Tim Holtz and Ranger. I'm going to add a little bit more here. So I'm adding the glue to the vellum part of the card because I still want to see that blue edge that we added with the marker. So I did that first, and then I thought, you know, I'm going to add stuff to the trees while I'm thinking about where else I want to have some of this glitter and the mica flakes. So I'm using this black micro pen. I'm adding a string here because I'm going to add a string of lights. Now, I am not going to be doing Christmas light colors, but if you wanted this to feel more Christmassy, you definitely could. I'm using Nuvo Crystal Drops in Caramel Dream. So it reminds me of like the outdoor lights that have that nice fun orange glow. We have a bunch of them in our backyard, and it lights up our backyard so nice. It's such a warm glow. But I felt like this scene needed some sort of lights because they're ice skating. They need to see where they're ice skating. It feels kind of like a nighttime scene. Okay, so I'm going to add glue at the bottom, the base of the trees. This is where I want to add some mica flakes. I want it to feel like the snow is just really built up underneath the trees. And mica flakes, they just shine so nice in the light. I'm going to tap the excess off onto a scrap piece of paper. And then I can just dump this back into my jar. I was deciding if I was going to add glitter to the sides of this pond. You could leave it, but I opted to add glitter. I'm also going to add some mica flakes. So I'm going to put the more glitter on. I'm just kind of going back and forth, just looking at my scene in between each thing because I don't want to overdo, but I ended up doing a lot and I actually love it. So I'm going to add a little more glue in this corner for mica flakes. Like the ice is just kind of built up on the edges of the pond. That's kind of my thought process when I'm adding this. I'm going to do more on this other edge. Kind of in the corners where things meet, I want to add some more of the mica flakes. And then you also have the glitter around the edges, so it just gives you that good frosty feel. Let's add a little bit more on the top and the sides. And I'm going to add some to the tree. I just wanted to let that Nuvo Crystal Drop like dry at the top so nothing would stick to it. But look at how frosty that looks. I love this. Okay, so I was touching the Nuvo Crystal Drops. They were dry to the touch on top. Not dry enough to put in an envelope and send, but dry enough that the mica flakes are not going to stick. So I'm just adding to the top and the outside edges of the trees some of that liquid glue. I'm going to do the same thing for the small ones and then sprinkling on the mica flakes. I do try to break up the mica flakes a little bit in my fingers so I don't have such huge pieces, but you can't get rid of all the big pieces. So I'm going to make sure that none of the pieces are too large, especially on the small trees, but this just gives it a really nice shine, like it's really frosty out. Now, I did decide to add some stars to the night sky. This is the Trinity Stamps Twinkie Twinkie stars. They are kind of white. They kind of remind me of the Mica flakes. I really thought I was going to add snowflakes to this, but snowflakes weirdly it felt like it did not fit the scene for me personally. I still think they would be cute, but I loved the sparkle of the stars in the sky. Now I'm going to glue my little critters down. They are going to be popped up with foam tape. All of them are going to have some dimension. So a little bit of foam squares. I have the little mouse lined up with the skating mark at the top, and then of course our little fox did a spin and created a heart. We have a little mouse at the bottom, and then that little bunny who fell down, he's going to be towards the bottom. So this scene is full and I love it. I feel like stuff is actually going on. I'm going to use a black glaze pen to the eyes and the nose of the critters. Of course, a white gel pen. I'm going to add some detail to the fox's sweater. A little bit of stitching across the front. I'm going to add a little bit of stitching on his sleeves, a little bit of line on that little mouse. Then of course I want to add more highlights to them. I'm going to add some dots to the cheeks. I'm just deciding everything that I'm doing I don't want to overdo, but let's add some little highlight areas to each of the critters. And then let's take a look at this up close. Look how shimmery, look at how wintry this looks. The vellum is stamped and it gives the pond a frosty look. So vellum is really just a wonderful use on your card. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this project. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. And don't forget to check everybody else out. I will have everything listed and linked for you guys below. Thanks again. Bye.